Hello, and welcome back to Sacred Wellness, a space where we explore healing, embodiment, and what it truly means to come home to yourself, especially in seasons of transition. Today's conversation is one that so many people feel, but many do not know how to explain. It's the sense of feeling of something that is just off. Life looks fine on the outside sometimes, but internally or energetically, something doesn't feel aligned. Today I'm joined by Jillian of Feng Shui Emotion, who helps people move through that exact feeling. The sense of being stuck, unclear, and out of alignment is something she works with often, and by working with the energy of the environment of her clients, they create a more clarified, confident, and ease in their life. What I love about her work, it brings the awareness of something that often many of us overlook, and it's the space that we live in. We're deeply connected to the spaces we live in, but sometimes there is a disconnection depending on what's going on. So, Jillian, I am so honored to have you here today. Welcome to Sacred Wellness.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk with you today.
Me too. Let's start a little bit. I know we have a lot to say and a lot to get going here this morning. Let's talk a little bit about what feng shui is. And am I saying it correctly?
You are Feng
Okay.
Shui.
Feng shui. So let's talk a little bit about what feng shui is, and then we'll jump into what that actually means for all of us.
Sure. So the literal translation of Feng Shui is wind, water. And there's an ancient teaching when you go through training, and it says something like the chi rides on the wind and it stops at the boundary of water. And this is why a lot of times when people talk about feng shui, they talk about where the water is because water is of utmost importance. And I am a classically trained practitioner, so I use all of the ancient formulas that the emperors were using. And the whole point of feng shui in that time period was to retain power. And it just happens to be that we don't live in that kind of environment anymore. Now we can take this information and we can use it in our own homes.
I love that definition. Thank you so much for sharing. I know many people are often interested in it, but they don't really know what's behind it. So thank you for sharing that. I
Yes.
want to talk a little bit about what it means when life feels kind of off,
Yeah.
especially in the times that we're living with, all of the energy that's going on in our world. Sometimes we have that feeling, that sense is that something is off,
Yeah.
but people don't always know what that means.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about misalignment and how someone may feel misaligned?
That's a really good question. So one of the resources that I use in my practice is a system called Eight Mansions. And the system itself basically says that based on when you're born, you have four, quote, good directions and four, quote, bad directions. Nothing's forever good or bad. And there's advanced formulas for these things. But in general, there are four good and four bad directions. And the good directions help us with stability, help us with health, help us with relationships, and help us with life generating energy.
Okay.
And so the opposite of that is things like incidents and mishaps, minor annoyances, could be legal issues, could be
Hmm.
a major health issue, could be something completely disastrous, all of the above, could be a financial disaster and a health issue and a relationship issue, and things just start to fall apart. And if you're noticing that these things are happening in any one of these areas, and you're like, I cannot put my finger on why this is continuing to go on or what's happening now, it could just be that you're physically misaligned. A
Okay.
lot of times, what I tell people is if you want to feel a sense of empowerment, a sense of confidence, a sense of ease, then you should consider the significance of your physical environment.
That's a really good point. Starting there first, I love that you talked about the eight mansions and you have a freebie you're going to share
I do.
with us. I'm going to add the link there when I share your show later on in a few weeks. But can you tell us a little bit more that eight mansions freebie you have?
Yes. So I will share something that my teacher always said to me. She said that a lot of times when people talk about classical feng shui, they want the whole enchilada. And sometimes all you get are the nachos. And that's because we're not building our houses from scratch. We're not walking the land and finding out where the right hot spots are for good chi. We are just going on our realtor site and picking a house that we have specific attributes that we want in a house. And then we walk in and we go, oh, this feels really great. But it could be that there are key components in the home that are actually not aligning with you, even though it feels good initially. And these nachos are things like your door, your
Mm.
bed, your stove, water feature. So a lot, like I live in Phoenix, Arizona, feels like every third person has a pool in their backyard. So a spa, a pool, a pond, a water fountain, any kind of water feature can be significant. And so the eight mansion system helps us get into better alignment based on our personal energy using good directions for these things.
Okay.
Which is a good door direction? Which is a good place to put my bed? Where is a good direction for me to face in my office if I work from home? If I am dealing with an illness, maybe my stove is not helpful for me. So these are the kinds of things that we look at using the eMansions toolkit.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's a
We
lot.
just bought our house last year and I did not know all of that stuff.
Most people don't, right? You just sort of walk in and you're like, oh, I want this many bedrooms and I want this many bathrooms and I want to be on this kind of street. And there's a lot available using these
Mhm.
classical systems. And so the eight mansion system is very accessible and relatively, I don't want to say easy, but it's just very
Right.
consumable. It's very consumable for the layperson who's not trained to look at all of the extra stuff. And it's
Right.
in my practice is basically non-negotiable. So it's really like a foundational component to the work that I do with my clients.
Sure.
So this is why I offer it as a free toolkit because you could test it for yourself. And
Right.
if it's still not working, then there's something else that we need to look at because it's never just one thing. It's sometimes it's not just the door, but it's the door and the bed and the stove and the da, 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 da. And so once
Yes.
you get a whole look at everything, then we can put it all together. I think that a lot of times in our modern world, especially on social media, feng shui is marketed, if you will, as about aesthetics. And I'm really about energetics. I care
Hmm.
very little about how you decorate your house. I mean, I want
Right.
you to live in a beautiful place and I want you to have things that you love, but your house should not look like a Chinese antique store because that's the person that tried to sell you a lucky frog or a crystal or tchotchke. They're making money. That's
Right.
not real, true classical feng shui.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the bed in the bedroom. I do know about that. And I
Yes.
do know about energy. So I do know when I shifted my bed around in our bedroom. We've been here about a year and we live in Gilbert, Arizona, so not far from you.
Oh, we could do a little consultation. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So, but I do know when our bed was against the one wall with the windows, it didn't feel as good as it does now when I moved it.
Okay.
So I am about energetics as well, how it feels to
Yeah.
me. And
Yeah.
often when you live in an energetic world, you can sort of pick up on those little nuances without
Yeah.
really knowing much about it. So that's just like one easy way somebody could change something maybe just in their bedroom alone is like by
For
moving the
sure.
bed. Hmm.
Absolutely. If your bed is to the north, if the now when I say your bed to the north, I mean like the crown chakra at the top of your head is pointed to the north direction while you're sleeping and things are not working for you, give it a 90-degree turn. Here's the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is people go, well, that's not the wall the bed goes on because they think about it from an architectural perspective.
Yes.
And all I have to say is this. If your life is falling apart and you're at the end of your rope, what do you have to lose by turning your bed?
Right.
I also really want to encourage people to have a good headboard. That's very,
Okay.
very helpful. It really does provide a sense of security. So if you normally have your head on a solid wall and you think, oh, if I'm going to turn my bed, then my bed would be against a window and that feels weird, just get a really good headboard and that will actually create a nice
Hmm.
barrier and provide you with some support so you feel like you're safe and secure while you're sleeping.
Okay, awesome. Great tips. Thank
Yes.
you. Let's talk a little bit about midlife because midlife is where I am in my life. And a lot of my clients that I'm seeing now and that come to the show really need to talk about midlife. And we talk about sacred wellness, about this turning point in our life.
Yes.
And it's really a time that we begin to not only question everything, but look for alternative ways because we've outgrown who we were before,
Yes.
right?
So true.
So, how do you see people showing up for the places that they live in? Like, say they inherited stuff from a parent that passed, and now they have their parents' stuff in the house. And
Yeah,
what happens in those kind of situations, especially as we're going through midlife, we're going through our own stuff, but now our parents' stuff is coming in as well.
it's very emotional. I had to close up my dad's house a couple years ago,
Hmm.
and I really just went through a process of, is it a lovable? It's an object. I'm just using this pen as as an
Okay.
example.
Hmm.
It's an object. This is an object that has attachment and memory and connection for your parent or a sibling or even a child, but this is not your memory. And
Right.
if you don't have a positive association with this object, then it really isn't a need. I also am seeing things much more spiritually than I did even 5 or 10 years ago.
Hmm.
I don't think that I mean, I have opinions. My opinion is that on the other side, they're not looking at this object going, why didn't you save this object? I loved this object. They don't care.
Right.
On the other side, they don't care. It's just a thing. There is we The point of Feng Shui is to make our environment as harmonious as possible. Sometimes we have some limits to what we can do, but as
Right.
harmonious as possible so we can enjoy the time while we're here because this is a material environment, but it's not only the component of the world. It's not the only component of the universe. In feng shui, there's something called the three lucks.
Hmm.
And there's something called heaven luck, human luck, and earth luck. So heaven luck is what you're born with. You cannot crawl back in your mother's womb and be born at a different time. This is just what you get when you're born. This is the sort of the energy that make you who you are. Human luck is our free will. So it's the choices we make where once you grow up, you're going to go away from your parents, you're going to live in a different part of the world, different city, rural, forest, wherever you want to live. You're going to choose your own career, you're going to have your own life. Earth luck is the feng shui. So in
Hmm.
theory, we can control slash influence about two-thirds of that. And
Okay.
that is very helpful to keep in mind that we can influence our experience in our physical environment by the choices that we make. So this object, if this object is not a lovable, then you can make the choice to recycle it, gift it, donate it. Maybe it needs to be, maybe you need a ritual or a ceremony to burn it or to give it away in some way energetically. That's also something that can happen.
Sure. To release it.
Yeah, to
Hmm.
release it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about creating that flow and ease. I think, when we're entering midlife, there's so much unknown
Hmm.
for us. We are becoming someone new, but we're not there yet, right?
Right.
We're going through this process. I call it unlayering, but we are shedding and releasing a lot through that process.
Yes.
So creating more flow and ease in our life is something really that helps us through that process.
Yeah.
So what do people actually begin to experience when they start to do something when working with you, like changing the bed or getting
Yeah.
rid of some objects that maybe they
Yes.
hold on to for other reasons?
So the answer is depends on what the focus is, what it is that we're focusing on. Is it a money issue that we're focusing on? Is it a health issue? Typically, when I'm dealing with people who are in this midlife time, it's usually
Hmm.
health because that's usually the thing that people are like, oh, I don't feel the way I did a few years ago. Things are not going right in my body. Why is this happening? And so usually it's a health issue. And what can happen is when you get into better alignment is you just start to notice synchronicities. Oh, the doctor that I wanted to see is suddenly available. Or I get help from unexplained sources that I wasn't expecting.
Yes.
And the transition through what I call the learnings, this is not my quote. I really shouldn't say it's mine. The learning space between what you know and what you don't know. So that learning space, it feels very uncomfortable. And being in that learning space feels a little bit less um, jarring, a little less fearful. And so you're able to, with more clarity, go, okay, I know where I am, I know where I want to go. And in this space, in this transition, I can have peace, I can have blessings, I can have support, I can move forward with it with more confidence. Those are the kinds of things that typically people will see. Don't get me wrong, there's other benefits. Sometimes we're working on relationships where we'll we'll be focusing on health and then the relationship will show up because you start feeling
Hmm.
better. you're able to be more open emotionally, you're being open more physically, you're out there in the world, and so then the relationship shows up.
Sure.
Um, and it could be different kinds of relationships. It could be a business relationship, certainly could be interpersonal. Um, it's very customized. Everybody's experience is a little bit different.
Yes.
And it also sort of depends on what someone's willing to do. As an example, if I say to you, here are the 10 things that you need to do, and you only do three of them, you cannot say that it didn't work because you didn't do everything. It's sort of like your doctor says,
Yes.
exercise, diet, do the, and then you're like, well, I did this and I did that, but I didn't exercise. And then your doctor's like, well, shame on you. You should exercise.
Right.
And
You didn't do
then
it all.
you didn't do it all. Like, I'm giving you a prescription here. And so I really encourage people to take their time with feng shui because
Okay.
often there are 10 things that I'm suggesting that someone do. And
Sure.
so it doesn't mean that everything has to be adjusted in one day. Sometimes it
Right.
takes a little bit of time. And in my practice, I often will give people something called date selection. So they have good dates to take action, to make changes, and they
Okay.
can make those changes over time. And then also the passage of time helps as well because we go through seasons of the year, seasons of
Hmm.
life. Over time, things change. So a lot of my clients have been working with for 10, 15 years because they understand that it's not a one-time fix.
Sure.
You do sort of need to stay on it so that you can have the longevity and the wellness that you want over time.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Let's talk a little bit about moving into this space. It's really interesting because I know we touched a little earlier. We mentioned before we met, and it was about Chinese astrology,
Yeah,
but it is long and detailed. So we may have to have you back for some of
sure.
that, but
Yeah,
touch a little bit upon how Chinese astrology also works into this practice of someone that comes to see you now and like
yes,
what they are in the Chinese zodiac based
yes,
on
yes.
the year that we're also in, right? Because I'm a rooster in a dragon year.
Actually, we're currently in the year of the horse,
Oh, we're the
FYI.
horse. That's right. In the year of the fire horse.
And
That's
it's a
right.
fire horse and it's a really powerful year. Yes. As I mentioned, there are three lucks, the human luck, earth luck, heaven luck. So
Mm-hmm.
the Chinese astrology, which is known as the four pillars of destiny, takes your date of birth and it converts it to the Chinese calendar and
Okay.
it labels the timing through the five elements of feng shui. And the five elements of feng shui are water,
Mm-hmm.
wood, fire, earth, and metal. And
Okay.
these are the elements that make up the universe. It's not just the stars that we see in the sky, it's everything in the universe. Everything
Right.
has these associations. And so when we know the balance of these five elements related to when you're born, then we can identify where the imbalance is and where in the home we can fill that in and provide you with some support. Because a lot of times what I see is that people will have an imbalance of an element in their chart and they will unconsciously be choosing a home that also has that imbalance physically in the home as
Sure.
well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just because that's what you're comfortable with. You're comfortable in your skin, and then you go into this house and you're like, oh, this feels comfortable. There's a long list of reasons for that. And so I do look at a person's individual energy in the process so that I can
Okay.
help align the person's energy with the physical energy so that alignment happens. And then when alignment happens, you just stay in the flow. Things just
Right.
flow a little bit easier. Just removing obstacles when it's sort of like turning on a radio.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to listen to the radio at 95.7 and you're on 101.9, you're not going to hear the same music.
Sure.
So you
Mm-hmm.
have to get in the right tune in order to have harmony. That's really how it works.
Right. And frequency is something I talk about often. It's one of my first loves along with healing.
Yeah.
But if you're not tuned in, like you said, to the right frequency,
Yeah.
it may be still off for you. So that's why you're saying besides feng shui, we're also looking at Chinese
Yes.
astrology for
Yes.
you and your home and the place that you live in. Got it.
Yes. These are timeless. This timeless wisdom, but I really aim to make it more practical because
Okay.
for a lot of people, they worry that the thing that I'm going to do is say, now you have to renovate your kitchen. And that's sometimes a 25 or $50,000
Sure.
investment. And that's really not practical.
Okay.
I've, by the way, not even done that in my own home because that's a really significant investment. I usually ask people to do temporary fixes, um, and test it before we make a more significant investment in a larger scale
Okay.
renovation, if you will. That's not usually in the cards for most people, to be honest. Although, if you are somebody who is like building a dream home or you're doing a significant
Hmm.
renovation to your house and you're like, I'm going to make this as my last stop. I'm going to be here for the next 20 or 30 years, and you really want to make it your dream place and you're willing to renovate, then it's a really good time to bring in a classical feng shui
Sure.
practitioner because we can help you build in wealth formulas, make sure that the alignment is good over a longer period of time instead of a short-term fix.
Sure. No, thank you for sharing that. I like that because you're right. Many people don't have $50,000 sitting around to fix their kitchen, and they're going to be like, well, what am I supposed to do in the
Right.
meantime? It's like the door, right? You said the door has to face a certain way. So, like, we've already bought our house, the door is facing it. How does someone go about like changing things about that doorway?
Sometimes
Or,
it's just using another door. Sometimes it's
okay.
just, hey, this particular door is not really favorable. Instead of using your front door, let's have you use a side door or a
Okay.
back door as much as
Hmm.
possible.
Sure.
In a suburban area, you and I are kind of in the same suburban area. You have single family home, an attached garage. You just sort of park your car and you go in the door. And so it
Yeah.
becomes the most used door. And so and again, it's if things are really bad, you might be willing to be a little inconvenienced to feel better. And you
Sure.
kind of have to decide what you're willing to do.
Hmm.
And we won't know until we do an assessment.
Sure.
It might not be that you have to stop using your interior garage door. It could just be that the back door is unfavorable for a short period of time. Like, for
Okay.
example, my own home this year my house faces south.
Okay.
And the annual negative energy, so there's different systems that we use. The annual negative energy is in the south. So I basically close my front door for the year and I don't use it. I happen to
Right.
have an interior garage door I can use, which is great. I
Hmm.
have a back door I can use, which is fabulous. But if you live in an apartment or a condo, you might only have one door. And
Yes.
so we need to treat that with care and know that there are some limitations to how good we can make it.
Hmm.
We can do some things in the setup of your feng shui, but it might take a little bit longer to get the kick
Okay.
of ease through that process. Sometimes
Sure.
I talk about it as a kick because when things are really bad and you get into good alignment, everything starts to feel like a snap. Like, oh, all of a sudden everything is great. I
Hmm.
got a job
Hmm.
offer, relationship, I met this person, and so things snap into place. Sometimes it
Sure.
takes a little longer to get the snap.
Yeah. And it makes sense when I talk about frequency. That's the same thing when we do energy healing,
Yeah,
right? It's not a one and done. It's not overnight. I'm not going to meet with you, do
yeah.
healing on you, and everything's going to be perfect because often we've got to go through this process of unlayering that I talked about. Before I met with you, I did a little research about the door color. Does that also play a role in feng shui?
I really wish I could say yes. It's a myth.
It's a
Otherwise,
myth.
every door in China would be red. It's just not real. Again, aesthetics, don't get me wrong. Color in the aspect of classical feng shui has a component, but it's very low on the scale of things that
Okay.
I look at. This is why, for me, the energetics comes first before the
Hmm.
aesthetics.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you to use one door versus another door before I'm going to tell you to paint a
Paint.
door green or red or black
Okay.
or I'm not, that's not, I'm not doing that. If you want somebody to, I'm going to be clear. If you want somebody to tell you what color to put drapes and what color rug and pillows and that's not the work that I do.
Right.
If you want to
Hire a
feel,
decorator.
please hire a decorator, but after you've called me to deal with the energetics, because I can help you know where the best alignment is to get you in a situation where you feel a little bit more supported. And that's really, I think, what we want. I often think that people feel when they're not feeling good, and a lot of my clients are very intuitive. Almost all my clients are naturally intuitive. And I can see that in their Chinese astrology chart. And it's
Sure.
because this is the client that I attract, and I'm totally clear on that. When you feel like something is off, you need some support because you feel really alone. It's almost like in your head you're going, why isn't this going right? I don't understand. My friends are not here. My spouse is not communicating. My kid, and there's all these things going on, and you
Sure.
just feel like you're really alone, and you're like, I don't get it. And so you do sometimes need some outside support, an outside new perspective, a fresh pair of eyes to look at
Right.
everything.
Well, thank you for clearing that up because the internet does have a lot of misinformation out there.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear it's low on the list of
Low,
priorities to change
low on the
because
list of priorities.
most of
Yeah.
us in Arizona live in an HOA, so you're not painting your door red to begin with.
Right. We exactly. I had to go through a lot to put up a water feature in my own home, like a land. I had to go through a landscaping architectural committee to
Right.
get approval. Yes. So it's
Yes.
not so
So
easy. That's
no,
why
it
focus on
isn't.
the inside as much as we can.
Mm-hmm. For someone who's listening and feels stuck right now, sort of overwhelmed in that you were talking about, all this stuff is going outside of them. What's one simple thing that you can tell them today that they can do that's practical, and easy for them to do today?
Well, maybe I have two. The first is you've made it through 100% of your life so far, not knowing any of this. So you can continue to make it through. And if you do want
Love that.
support, I think starting with the 8 Mansions Toolkit is a really good place because you may find something that is misaligned that you can work on. I like the bed. To be honest with you, the answer is it depends. I like the bed because we want you to feel rested. We want you to feel healthy. We want you to feel nurtured. If you cannot sleep, like that's hard if you don't get a good night's
Sure.
sleep. So I do really like starting with the bed. The second would maybe be the door because where the chi comes from and the energy that you're bringing in is significant. And then
Okay.
if you work from home, it's really the office. The stove, of course, is a big deal, but you can't always fix your stove by yourself. So I would say start with the bed and the
Okay.
door, then your office desk.
Awesome. Wonderful. And I will be sharing the link to the 8 Mansion Toolkit in
Yes.
the description of the show today. I want to just thank you for coming on and joining us today and sharing your wisdom with my audience. It's been such a beautiful space to share with you.
This is a great conversation. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. And if this conversation is a reminder that something you're looking to shift or change isn't always about doing more, but it's about creating the space in our life for what truly wants to flow. And as Jillian said, it's that chi that wants to come in, but sometimes we have some human-made things that may be in the way of that, right?
Yes.
So, thank you for joining me. And if this episode resonated with you today or you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, make sure you connect with Jillian and I will share all her links in the show today. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.